The meeting will be starting shortly. While we wait, let's learn more about Exeter TV. Exeter TV is the town's public and government access channels, available on Comcast channels 98 and 22. Channel 98 is your channel. If you have an idea for a program, want to host your own talk show, or submit a film, we're here to get your content on television. On Channel 22, we bring you live and replay coverage of government meetings and other town updates. A third channel, Blue Hawk Media, is operated by SAU 16 and can be found on Channel 13, with all your school sports, events, and meetings. You can watch Exeter TV online at exeternh.tv, Apple TV, and on Roku. Find us on social media for extra content. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell to get notified about live streams and new content. Tune in to our platforms every other Friday to watch the Exeter Biweekly Report, with recaps of recent events, updates from town departments, and messages from nonprofits in your area. If you head to our website, exeternh.tv, we invite you to sign up to our newsletter to receive monthly updates about new content, upcoming meetings, and more. We'd like to thank you for taking the time to watch Exeter TV and hope that you tune in to our other content as well. Thank you for tuning in to Exeter TV. The meeting will be starting shortly. While we wait, let's learn more about Exeter TV. Exeter TV is the town's public and government access channels, available on Comcast channels 98 and 22. Channel 98 is your channel. If you have an idea for a program, want to host your own talk show, or submit a film, we're here to get your content on television. On Channel 22, we bring you live and replay coverage of government meetings and other town updates. A third channel, Blue Hawk Media, is operated by SAU 16 and can be found on Channel 13, with all your school sports, events, and meetings. You can watch Exeter TV online at exeternh.tv, Apple TV, and on Roku. Find us on social media for extra content. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell to get notified about live streams and new content. Tune in to our platforms every other Friday to watch the Exeter Biweekly Report with recaps of recent events, updates from town departments, and messages from nonprofits in your area. If you head to our website, exeternh.tv, we invite you to sign up to our newsletter to receive monthly updates about new content, upcoming meetings, and more. We'd like to thank you for taking the time to watch Exeter TV and hope that you tune in to our other content as well.
We're all set with Exeter TV as well.
Let's go over tell them.
Okay, great.
And we're live on 98, as I understand it.
I believe so. I don't know if we are live yet, but Doug, are we live now? TV? Can I get started, or should I?
We're on channel 98,
We're on channel 98.
not 22, the budget committee.
Yes, we are on TV.
Okay. I just wasn't sure we had to get them, wait for them, so. Okay. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the November 15th meeting of the Zoning Board of Adjustment. I'm Kevin Baum, Chair. Tonight, I have Martha Pennell, alternate member, and Laura Davies, who's another full member of the board. We have a small board tonight. We were only able to have 3 members. That is a quorum, but it takes all 3 members to vote in the affirmative for approval. We have talked to other, some of the applicants have decided to continue, and that is an option for any applicants tonight. So I just wanted to make you aware, and we'll go through some of those continuances in a minute. Actually, before I get started, I'm actually going to start with a moment of silence. We lost, yesterday afternoon, we lost Rick Thierbaugh, who was a longtime member of this board, a member since 2011, a full member since 2013. I think he was the clerk, vice chair, and chair. he will be missed. He was a very dedicated member. It was always a very thoughtful member, and always let the applicants and the rest of the board know exactly where he stood. You never needed to guess with Rick. And his voice is definitely going to be missed tonight. So, moment of silence. Thank you. I'm going to start, as I mentioned, there were a handful of requests to continue. I'm going to take each of those up. I'd like to just take a formal vote to continue to the following meeting. So we'll need a motion and then an affirmative vote. First is the application for Riverwoods Company, which is application number 2215, and application number 2216 for map 97, lot 23, and map 98, lot 37. And they have requested to postpone those applications to the December 20th meeting.
I move to...
Now, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 The next is the application of 107 Pomona Road LLC, tax map 82, lot 11, which is case 2217. And they have asked to continue to the January 17th meeting.
I move to continue this application as well.
Now, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And then lastly, the application number 2220 for 12 Little River Road by Jewett Construction. They have also asked to continue their application to December 20th.
Once again, move to continue that application to the December
second.
meeting.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
So just to confirm, Riverwoods, both applications to January, and Panema and this one are to December, is that right?
Panema, no, the other way around. Riverwoods to December and Panema to January.
Okay, thank you.
So, so then next on the agenda is the application of Richard and Debbie Schaefer for a variance from Article 5, Section 5.3.3 to permit the use of test pits for an individual sewage disposal system with less than the required 24 inches to seasonal high water table. This is property located at 24 Powder Mill Road and the R1 low-density residential zoning district.
Hi, I'm Henry Boyd with Millennium Engineering, and with me tonight, I dragged my wife with me, so, is Rick and Debbie Schaefer and their daughter, Chrissy, who I'm actually working for. I've been to a lot of these meetings over the years, and I have to say, I think that's the first time that ever happened, a moment of silence, but it was very, very special. It was a wonderful, wonderful way to start the meeting.
Thank you. And unfortunately, those are second this year, but thank you.
Yeah. So anyway, usually when we submit these applications, it's much more exhaustive and a thicker application and a lot of survey plans and a lot of documentation and legal explanations and everything, but something that they're trying to do, Rick and Debbie are actually trying to give their daughter a piece of land to keep the family together, which I think is a wonderful thing nowadays. And I guess the only good thing about the economic climate that we're in is I think a lot of more people are trying to do that. And if it does anything to bring the family back together the way it used to be, I think would be nice. But They currently have, on Powder Mill Road, about 17 acres. The one thing that I did bring so that you guys could see it, though it's in your package, the tax map, and I've highlighted for you just so that you could see on one of Exeter's tax map sheets, which is 102, this parcel takes up about a third of that tax map. It's 17 acres of property. The northern boundary basically is the Exeter River. It's bounded to the east by the OB&M Railroad and Powder Mill to the south. There is some River Woods land to the north of them, some town land on both sides of the streets. Their existing house and a garage building is here. The driveway is here. One of the other things that I put in the package was a wetland delineation. They were proactive to try to find out whether, first of all, was there upland areas out there that they could build. And in that package, I have submitted basically an aerial photo, which is the sketch from the wetland scientists. Gove had been out there to delineate the wetlands. So the wetland flags are out there, and there is a very large area that is uplands. The issue and why we're here tonight is that Exeter has somewhat of an overreaching requirement for septic in that if you were to design a septic system to qualify for the state to pass, you need about 6 inches of existing natural soil above the seasonal high water table. Exeter requires 2 feet. They require 24 inches. The soils that were performed out here, there were some test pits that Millennium didn't do, but they were done, and I've included those logs there as well. And we're looking at between essentially 10 and 17 inches to the water table. So we'd be asking for relief from that 2 feet to about 17 inches. So we're about 7 inches shy of what would be required. And honestly, we would have to go for New Hampshire subdivision approval and a lot of things, but before we spent that kind of money, because we don't have to survey the entire 17 acres for them, but we're going to have to survey a good deal of it, surveying the river, making sure that they have the setbacks that they need, doing the topography, showing where the system would be, showing the county soils lines. Most of Exeter doesn't require that because you're on sewer, but anything out in this neck of the woods where you don't have sewer, there's a lot more work that has to go into it. So before we spent that kind of money, we wanted to come to you to make, I think, a good logical argument to say that the state doesn't require this, Exeter requires it, but there's not a lot of area in Exeter that you have to have septic systems anyway. And I don't want to say that the regulation is wrong, because I'm sure a lot of thought went into it, but it's not necessarily scientific. The other thing that you can do is that you can add fill above the naturally occurring soil to get to the separation that you would need to have a 4-foot separation above the water table for the septic anyhow. So practically and scientifically, there is no harm in designing over that system and having a system there. It's simply we need relief because the regulation says if you don't have 2 feet of naturally occurring soil above the water table, you can't build a septic system. So if she can't have a septic system, she can't have a piece of land from her folks. So I think it's a great opportunity to do something that is not going to harm the public. It's not going to create any problems for anybody, for the town, for the river, in any way harm the public at all, but it will provide a great benefit to this young mom and allow them to be closer to their family. I did prepare the 5 criteria if you want me to go through those, but I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
I do have some questions, and it's just trying to understand the state regulations, because I assume this will need a septic, this will need a permit from DES.
Absolutely.
And so I looked briefly, and not exhaustively, and I'm certainly no expert, and deciphering DES regulations are not easy.
Right.
But a quick read, it looks like you need 2 to 4 feet under the DES regs. Am I misreading that?
That-
Can you help explain?
Yeah, so when you design the septic system in the state of New Hampshire, they actually allow 2 feet to the water table itself with certain technologies, like enviroseptic pipe. If you did a traditional stone and pipe design, which is a standard leach field, which is PVC pipe in a stone bed, you need 4 feet for that. But with the newer technologies, they allow actually a reduction not only to the water table, but in the size of the field as well, because the technology actually is better nowadays.
And is that what's proposed? Do you know what, I mean, it's probably premature, but do you have a sense of what type of system is going to be proposed here?
We would actually, if you guys see this as meritorious and grant it, we would eventually, so there's a couple of steps. Let me back up. So the first permit that would be required from the DES is a New Hampshire subdivision approval. So any time in the state of New Hampshire, you guys don't see a lot of this because most of the town is on sewer, but any time in the state of New Hampshire where there is no sewer, if you divide a lot, or you create a lot that's less than 5 acres in size, you have to get New Hampshire subdivision approval first. And what that is that we have to calculate based upon the soils for what's called lot loading. So even if you grant this approval, we still have to take that step. So say, for example, and I'm not cursing us, God be with us, but if you grant the variance, she still has to prove to the state of New Hampshire, based on the county soils maps, that she has enough soil to handle a 4 or a 5 bedroom house, whatever she's going to be proposing out there. That has to be done before they will grant the permit, even before she can subdivide it. Once that's done, we go back across the street upstairs at the planning board, and they grant the approval, and then she would go on back to DES to get her septic design. At that point, we would probably be using enviroseptic pipe, and even though we can take a reduction, we probably will not take a reduction to the water table. It would more be in size. My instincts are in reading the test pits, the soils are slower, so we're probably going to have a very large field. But to get back to your initial question, that separation that you're talking about is for the septic itself. So there's no hard and fast regulation that they say you have to have, as Exeter does, 2 feet above the high water table to even consider designing a septic system. What they say is that you have to have 2 to 4 feet, but depending on the system you use, above the estimated seasonal high water table before you can place your bed bottom for design for the septic itself. So if you read those regulations, and even in Exeter's regulations, so Exeter wants you to be 4 feet above the water table with your septic design to your bed bottom. It says right in there that you can add sand, septic sand, to make that requirement. What they don't allow, and why we are here, is that they want you to have this much above the naturally occurring before they'll even consider letting you have a septic. And I honestly think it's unfair. I try not to be critical of regulations that are in place, but there has to be a relief valve when things like this have merit. We're asking for 1 house lot for a family, and we're going to design a system, if approved, that will not harm the environment. It's a very benign use. We can employ the technologies that we can to ensure that it's safe, and it's productive, and it helps them.
Could we just step back and, I have the existing lot on the tax map, but what is the proposal for the subdivision? I didn't see anything about that.
Yeah, so we haven't, Laura, we haven't spent any survey money at this point. I just asked her to provide me what she had. So she's got test pits, she's got the delineation done, so there's wetlands flagged out here. And what I simply did is, if you look at the aerial that was provided for you, there's kind of a tree line on it that you can see, and I've tried to mimic that here. The tax map shows the structures that are already there, and I just simply hatched them, and I drew in where the driveway is for Rick and Debbie's house.
So this outline is meant to be that lower right corner?
That's correct. So I have a
I
little red
see.
X.
I
And
gotcha.
this is where the test pits were situated. So the hope would be is that the system would be here. It would meet all of the wetland setbacks for the septic that are required, and she wants to build her house about right in here.
Okay. I just wanted to, I
Sure.
didn't really
Yep.
understand what we were trying to do.
Yep, but the lot line, it depends on whether they're going to give her 5 acres or how much land they're going to give her. We haven't determined where that line would be, but obviously the new line would have to meet setbacks from Rick and Debbie's structures over here and also meet the setbacks from hers.
And will it be a shared driveway? Just, or no, separate driveway? Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry, the tax map's got it down to 17, but
Look, we do have a copy of a proposed lot. I know you asked them where is this lot going to be, and we sort of penciled it out.
Would that help? Rick, do you mind coming up to the mic? Because otherwise, no one at home watching on TV can hear you.
this is what they came up with. I didn't prove it out, so I don't know what it would be, but this does answer your question.
Does that, Laura, would you like to see the understanding that this is very preliminary and
Yeah, I
subject
just
to
wanted to
change?
have a general idea what the thought process behind the proposal was, so that's great, thank you.
Right, you're welcome. Once we do determine it, to answer the initial question, the shared driveway, I would encourage them at least to share the driveway in so that there's one cut, because there is some wetland area that does come up here, so I'd like not to fill that, and then if we can come over. However, if it's determined that it's not a whole lot of impact here, because it's very narrow, there's just like a roadside, state would allow it, so.
Okay. Didn't mean to interrupt your
No.
line of questioning, but I just wanted the big picture before I listened to
Nope, that's absolutely
details.
fine. Martha, did you have any questions?
Well, I think I'm confused. I don't understand why our regulations, if they're out of date or wrong, why haven't they been changed? We've never had this before.
Yes, we have.
Oh,
Yes, we have. I guess is this working? Yes. Yes, we actually in the same area on Linden Street.
can't hear you.
On Linden Street, the Town of Exeter Conservation Commission wanted to subdivide a piece of land so they could sell it off for a house lot, and they couldn't meet the seasonal high water of 24 inches as well. So they came before the board, not this board, but back, 20 years ago maybe, and they were granted a variance to be less, I think they were even less than the 17 inches. I think it was around 10 inches or something like that. Do you remember what the?
I don't know.
Yeah, it was, I mean, it was more than the state. It was maybe 10 inches or something. So, yes, we have granted this before. Why is it 24 inches? I'm not sure. I just know it's in there, and that's the only relief valve, and I think, you know, Henry said it correct. There should be a relief valve, you know, anytime you make something more restrictive than the state, so.
And my understanding in dealing with this in some other towns is that the technology has improved and the regulations, especially on the municipal level, because it only gets changed, well, subdivision regulations could be changed whenever, but they don't get dealt with that often, so they tend to lag. So I know that the town of Rye has similar requests repeatedly, because it's almost all sewer, or it's almost all septic there, and it's just because I think the state regulations have moved faster than the local. That is, what I usually see when, in those cases, is a proposal to use like an EnviroVantage or something like that, and I would ask, if we were to consider granting relief, if it would, you would consider a condition. I wouldn't want to tie you to a system, but if you're going to use one anyway, that type of system for future use, because then we've got some, it sounds like that will have to happen regardless, and then we've got some confidence.
Yeah, I think in the end run, if we use, let's say, an EnviroSeptic pipe, for example, that's what we typically design 98% of the time. It's only if we have an old school builder that says, no, I want a traditional stone and pipe. That's the only time we use it. And Martha, I think one of the reasons why, that's why I said I don't think your regulation is necessarily wrong, because at some point somebody thought it was a good idea, but I think what Kevin said has a lot to do with it. The other thing that I think it is, in Exeter, you have sewer throughout most of the community, so it's only these outlying areas, so it doesn't come up that frequently. So when it does, there are some places that do need relief, and if there's not a scientific reason or a public health reason to deny it, I think you should grant it, because it is that only ability that they have to be able to use their property. And as Mrs. Schaefer said, it's 21 acres, even though the town has it at 17. We'll find out when we do some of the surveying, but I think because of those two things, septic isn't thought of a whole lot. Ask Doug. I mean, most of the permits that come through, it's sewer, because it's on sewer, and the technology has improved. In the state of Maine right now, they actually, you don't think of Maine this way, but they're actually proactive in a lot of things environmental-wise, and I think in some of those systems up there, you can actually get 18 inches to the water table with a new septic system, if it's designed properly. So we're not asking for that. We don't mind bringing some fill in and getting the separations and still using an EnviroSeptic pipe. So that, Mr. Chairman, that shouldn't be a problem.
Okay.
Just to clarify, I'm looking at the cited ordinance, and it doesn't talk about 24 inches. It just references the subdivision regs, so that's where it
Yes,
says.
that's where you'll-
Because I've never read that before, so
Correct.
that's because I haven't.
Yes, yeah, we had to find it.
Just wanted to make sure
Sorry
I
about
wasn't
that.
missing something, but
Yeah.
yeah, okay.
I called Doug's office and I said, Doug, can you help me with this? And he says, yeah. And then he says, I got to call you back.
So what is the name of the system? EnviroSeptic? Or?
Yeah, it's an EnviroSeptic pipe. Yep.
Okay.
There are some specific.
Or similar, yeah.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like the EnviroSeptic pipe is generic, and then there's specific.
Well, that's actually a manufacturer.
That is okay.
EnviroSeptic. I don't think we need a pre-treatment system or anything like that. There are some areas like, so for example, Rye. We talked about Rye. We did one down pretty close to the seacoast, and some of those lots that now require 60,000 square foot zoning, or an acre and a half, we did one on a lot that was 8,400 square feet. So we had to do what was called pre-treatment, where you actually, you can almost drink the water, not that I would want to, but by the time it gets to the leach field, it's already treated. It's an aerobic system in there, and you have to have it serviced twice a year by the manufacturer of the thing. So I don't think that we need to go that extreme, because we have the ability to add the fill, but we certainly would use an EnviroSeptic pipe.
Okay.
Yes.
That's helpful. Okay. Any other questions for the applicant? Okay. I think we're good, and I know you offered to go through the relief. I think we can rely on the.
Yep.
You're welcome to, but.
No, it's in the record as part of the application, so you've heard me talk enough, I think.
Okay. Thank you. Would any members of the public like to speak to, for, or against this application? I think just about everyone is part of this application. So, okay. Well, seeing no one, I'm going to close the public comment, and we'll enter into deliberations. Any Any comments?
My only concern is you've heard so much after the hurricanes in Florida that people should not have built where they built. And that's what my problem is now, that they're asking to build where somebody, and I don't know who, the state, or says that they don't have the pits.
Well, not the state, which is part
the
of
town
what
of
gives
Exeter.
the town of Exeter. And a town can be more restrictive. What I've seen, like I said, what I've seen in other towns is that and it makes sense to me in Exeter, I don't know if this happened, is that the state moves a little more proactively because they are forced to, whereas the towns, especially a town like Exeter, where the planning board probably does not revisit the septic requirements very often because they probably don't get that many applications, they tend to lag. And so I have some comfort here. I completely understand the comment. I have some comfort here because they're going to go, the next step is to go to DES with for the subdivision approval, and then they have to go back to DES to get approval for a design. And so to me, the experts in this field are the Department of Environmental Services, and they will ultimately review and bless or not whatever system goes in.
So as I understand it, they have to go to the DES, which turns out to be a little more liberal, if that's the word I want.
More up to
Or
Yeah.
date with the new technologies, I think.
Well, one more issue, maybe to set your mind at ease a little bit, Martha, is that the 24 inches, sometimes there are smaller lots of record that are available in the town that are not on town sewer. So they're smaller than, they could be as small as 1 acre. So, they want to make sure that because the lot is so small, that you have a good drainage area. This lot here, obviously, is probably going to be in excess of 5 acres, so there's plenty of room for things to,
And we're not
but I
dealing
think that's
with
why we went with 24 inches
Okay. And to that
for
point,
smaller
sorry.
lots,
Laura.
not for bigger ones. Bigger ones,
Yeah.
yeah.
And the size, obviously, that's a preliminary proposal, but they will also go back to the planning board
Right.
for subdivision approval.
Yep.
And that would be a consideration as the lot size. If, they would look at the septic as well. I think once we grant relief, they probably aren't going to, they wouldn't address the seasonal high water table, but they could, and I would expect they would address the lot size if they proposed it to be that much smaller.
Also, they will look at floodplain and that type of thing
Absolutely.
during the subdivision approval.
Absolutely.
So your concern about the flooding is not, it will be addressed
Correct.
with the subdivision approval.
Yep.
And,
Everything else will be met.
yeah.
Yep.
So,
Does that address your concerns, or do you have other questions?
Well, I'm concerned, but obviously there are safeguards that they have to, there are further boards they have to go before, and there are other safeguards in this. I mean, I know nothing about septic systems.
Right.
Except when they don't work or flood, then you have a problem. And, why did you build there to begin with?
Well, and that's some of it. I mean, and I know that, look, I trust Henry, and he says that it'll be absolutely fine, but obviously we can't rely on that, which is why I have comfort by knowing the DES is going to look at this, because that's all they do. What the Subsurface Bureau is, that's their purview, and they just look and approve it, approve septic designs. And so they really are the experts, so I would be I'm hesitant to say, no without knowing, without having a valid reason why this doesn't work, knowing that there are other people that have much more expertise that are going to look at it as well. And then they can say no, or say, no, you need to modify it, or use a more advanced system with pretreatment. Because we're not granting relief for any of that. We're only granting relief tonight for that separation, the seasonal high water table. So that's what gives me cover, because I similarly am no expert in this, but I know that the experts are going to look at this.
And I, deal with that in my job as well. And not that I know, I'm not a septic expert, but I know that it has to go to DES. For this, everything that he said tracks with what I also know about the process. And I think we're going to be assured. And I take seriously the floodplain and some of those other issues because of climate change and flooding, but I think this is a good place. It's a big enough area and should be reasonably, I mean, if they're not okay there, we're all in trouble, I feel like.
Yeah, we've been here 30 years, and the new place is actually, the elevation is higher than the ours. That doesn't make any difference.
So, would you?
I would entertain, I mean, unless there's further discussion, I would entertain a motion.
Shall I, Martha? You're okay with that? You're okay if I propose a motion? You ready?
Sure.
Okay. All right. I move to approve the application of Richard and Debbie Schaefer for a variance from Article 5, Section 5.3.3 to permit use of test pits for an individual sewage disposal system with less than the required 24 inches to seasonal high water table, on the condition that an enviroseptic pipe or similar system is used.
Sure.
Work.
I'll second.
Okay, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Congratulations. Welcome.
Have a good night. It was nice to see you all.
You too. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Next up is the application of John Luke Rogers for a special exception pursuant to Article 4, Section 4.2, Schedule 1, permitted uses, Schedule 1, Note 2, and Article 5, Section 5.2 to permit an existing in-law unit to become an accessory dwelling unit. This is located at 29 Hampton Road, the R2 Single Family Residential District. Absolutely. I assume you are the applicant? If you come up to the mic, you're welcome to stand or sit, but you need to have the microphone with you so they can hear you at home.
Okay. Hi, my name's Luke. First name's John, that's why it came up as John, but go by Luke, middle name. Live with my wife, Stacy, and our two kids, 4-year-old Amara, 1-year-old Bodie at 29 Hampton Road. My wife is a traveling nurse recruiter here in town, and I'm currently pursuing a nursing degree. And in the backyard of our house is an accessory dwelling unit that is currently approved as an in-law or guest suite. And so we were applying to, in accordance with special exceptions, Article 4.2, to authorize the space as a rental property as well. Just some of the reasons doing this, just rentals, economics, et cetera, are pretty dynamic right now. There's New Hampshire in particular has high occupancy rates. And we feel like this space sitting idle could be beneficial to the town, to maybe young professionals or young families that could benefit from the space, and could be beneficial to us as well, just trying to rent this out. I have in front of me all the necessary documents going through. So I'd be happy to go through all of this with you guys. This is the application for special exception. The current existing use, this is a converted pool house. There used to be a pool in the backyard here that's been filled in, and the pool house was converted to an in-law suite. And the proposed use or situation, as noted before, was that we would like to obtain permission from the town of Exeter to rent this space out on an intermediate or long-term basis. Attached map of the property with all dimensions, a butters list, our letter of explanation, addresses for each abutter, etc. So this
Do you mind if I, sorry to interrupt you, do you mind if I interrupt for a
Sure,
second? I
yeah.
had a few, since you talked about the map, I had a couple questions.
Sure.
And that was, in looking at that sketch map, it looks like there's a driveway that goes off to the, if you're facing from Hampton Road, it goes off to the left?
Yes.
And did that go then, it seemed to go to the other property. Is that a shared drive, or does it go along the property line?
That is a share, so there's 29 driveway right in front of the house. And that is connected to a shared driveway with 31. And then the driveway to get into that guest house in the back is off of that driveway.
Is off of the shared driveway?
Yes, and if you guys want to see, I brought the deed, the property deed that shows the right-of-way over that driveway to access the property.
That would actually be helpful.
Sure.
Because that was not in your packet.
Oh.
It wasn't? I was asking the question, I guess.
No, this
Okay.
is the original copy. So here's the deed.
So, well, do you mind going back to the microphone? Sure. While he's looking at that, I just wanted to clarify the terms. So you want, it's now not permissible for renting, it's just for family use, but you want it to become an accessory dwelling unit?
Yes.
Which would mean that the owner has to occupy one or the other of the two units?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I
We've been-
thought.
We went through all the criteria.
Okay.
Okay.
We went
I just
through
want to
every
make sure,
step.
because he said something.
We went through every step.
that-
He wouldn't be here if we didn't go through all of that.
He just said something that threw me off. I wanted to just be
Yeah,
clear.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, the driveway is a little tricky, because actually that driveway is an easement for a house on Hunter Place. That's where their sewer, their sewer goes out to Hampton Road, but their house is on Hunter Place. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
Interesting. But
Yeah, and just to clarify that as well, I did see there was some discussion in the application about it maybe meeting multiple criteria, but the application tonight is just for an accessory dwelling unit, and that, if we grant, it would only give you permission to use it as an accessory dwelling unit, not a conversion or any other potential use.
Yeah.
So everyone's clear.
Okay.
May I ask a question?
Of
For
course.
clarification. You said that there was an in-ground pool, and this was a pool house, and then you converted this? You filled it or took away the pool, and then what did you do to the pool house? This is it?
Well, that's my understanding of the history of the property. We moved in about a year ago. And our house is from 1940, and our understanding is that there formerly was a pool in the backyard that's been filled in before we got here. And this in-law suite was converted from the pool house years before we got here as well.
And was it used beforehand as living?
From our understanding, it was. The builder of 31 had lived in some, and I guess it has permitting.
it was all permitted. Yes, they filled in the pool and renovated the pool house for guest house. So there's some history with that, but it's all on record. Everything that was done there was permitted. So this was part of a subdivision, a 4-lot subdivision back in 2000, somewhere around there. They did that lot, that house that he lives in owned all that property. They did a 4-lot subdivision. And there was a pool and a guest house in the back. The person who bought the house filled in the pool, and then renovated the house and the pool house, or the guest house. But it wasn't a rental. It was just for a guest or his family when they came and visited. But it was all permitted.
It was all what?
Permitted.
Okay.
Yeah, everything is above board there.
And the proposal is no new physical changes, just changing the classification to allow you to rent out one of the other units. Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Go.
So we kind of cut you off. I don't know if there were any other points that we,
I think he was going to go through the special exception criteria.
Any other questions to this point, or?
I don't think so. I mean, I wanted to make sure, but I think Doug answered that, which is that the property meets the accessory dwelling requirements for note 2. And it's, in terms of parking, square footage, all of that. So it sounds like that is the case. And I guess since I assume this is all on sewer.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, we don't think about it usually, but we had it earlier.
Yeah.
And you understand you have to file something don't you have to file something in, not probate court, but
Registry?
registry?
Yeah, we'll do
Registry of deeds.
We'll do a CO and certificate of occupancy, and he will actually be required to do an amendment to his deed. Thank you. Yes, that's correct. That's in the criteria as well.
Yep. The only other comment, since we're talking, is I did see there was a note about making it available to short-term rentals.
I spoke with Doug about that, because I've been filling this out for the better part of the year that I've worked out, and so I spoke with Doug, and it won't be going to short-term yet.
As long as I just didn't want you to come out of here thinking that was permissible and then having another call from Doug.
Yeah.
So, that's great. Any other questions?
I'm all set.
Okay. Do we want him to go through I think we did cut him off. Do we want him to go through the criteria?
Sounds like we think it's a good idea to go through the criteria from what Doug was saying, so, yeah, I think so. And you did all that work, you might as well show off.
Okay.
So this is an R2 zone property. Special exceptions include 2 family homes, bed and breakfast, and an accessory dwelling unit. So R is for an accessory dwelling unit. We would like to rent it out and plan to rent it as an ADU. The use is designed, located, and proposed to be operated that the public health, safety, and welfare and convenience will be protected. And that's, at the forefront of our intentions, especially being that our family is living on the property. So the proposed use will be compatible with the zone district and adjoining post-1972 development where it is to be located. We have adequate landscaping and screening provided. This property is set back off of Hampton Road a bit with adequate parking. I put down 2-car parking just in compliance with a 2-room, but there is more parking available, as well as parking in our driveway in the primary residence if required, needed. we, as a condition of special exception approval, the applicant may be required to obtain town planner review and/or planning board approval of the site plan. And we just wanted to show for the record we'll comply with anything that the Board of Adjustment deems necessary, to update on the property or whatever is needed. So, and that the use shall not adversely affect abutting or nearby property values, and we don't anticipate that happening. And as stated earlier, feel like it really will be a good thing overall for the immediate area and the town as well. The next ones, I and J, were not applicable for the use of an ADU.
Thank you. Any questions?
I think we already asked him, so.
I think so. We interrupted him to do it. Okay. Thank you. Seeing that there is no one in the audience, I'm going to assume we have no members of the public, so I'm going to close the public session and go into our deliberations. Thank you.
Thank you.
And actually, Doug, do you have a copy of the deed in the file? Or
No, I do not.
do you want one? Is this, can we have this copy, or is this your original copy? Okay.
Included in like any of the paperwork requirements, I just grabbed it before I came.
Can you get Doug a copy of or Barb a copy of the deed? Thank you. Yep.
No?
It'd be good to have for the file. But you keep your original. But if you could get a copy, that would be helpful.
Sure.
Yeah, just a copy of it.
Yeah.
Download it.
Okay.
We have the ability to download that and put it in a file without your help.
The internet.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm going to stay quiet right now about the technology and skills, but.
But we will take a copy, thanks.
So I don't know if there's any particular concerns we need to address, but it appears to me that this is fairly straightforward. There's an existing building that's already been legally put into a use as a residence, but not as a legal separate unit for rental. And it meets all the criteria for the accessory dwelling unit. And there's not going to be any physical change to the property. So I have no issues or concerns about this. Don't know how you
Okay.
guys feel.
Martha? Yep.
I have no issues.
Yeah. My only one was the access, because it didn't make sense to me, but there's an easement, so that is fine, and it's to that building, so I think that's all set. I don't have any concerns either.
Yeah, it was interesting that you said it was a pool house, because I was trying to figure out how that type of building worked in that location, but that makes sense, so.
Okay.
Excuse me?
Bush?
Would anyone like to make a motion?
I can do it. So, I move to approve the application of John Rogers for special exception for Article 4, Section 4.2, permitted uses and Schedule 1 notes, and Article 5, Section 5.2, to permit an existing in-law unit to become an accessory dwelling unit at 29 Hampton Road.
Second?
Do we have to use the term in-law?
Well, that's what it was before. So it's going from something to,
Okay.
but, I mean,
It was a guest house.
do you have a better idea?
No, but it's just that in-laws don't appear in the zoning and,
It doesn't have any, it doesn't really have any legal status as an in-law, but I think it describes the former use for our records. So, and once approved, it would be an accessory dwelling unit, so it would have a accurate legal status.
okay, all right. Well, I'm all for it, so.
Okay.
Well, we could call it a guest house, amend,
Well, it's actually considered an accessory structure.
okay.
Under
So
our definition, that building is an accessory to the primary use. So if you want to use the word the accessory structure,
that
an
would-
accessory structure
that
to me
sounds
means
better.
almost like a barn or something. This is a living unit.
Well,
It's just not, so is that that's what we call it, an accessory structure? Okay.
Yeah.
Do you mind changing my,
why don't we,
Oh.
well, let's amend, all right, so I will second, well, I will amend it.
okay, well, I move to amend my motion to change in-law to accessory structure.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, I think it's better.
Yeah, that works.
to an ADU.
I'll second.
To an ADU.
From an accessory structure to an accessory dwelling unit, yes.
Yeah, that does.
Second.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion as amended. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Congratulations. We got there. Okay. Last thing are
Good job.
the minutes.
I
You-
wasn't part of it, so can we vote on it without three?
We cannot vote on it without three. You can vote on it, but if you prefer to
Just let him know
to continue this to December, I think that's
I hate to
fine.
keep continuing things, but I didn't read it, so I don't want to vote on it.
That is fine.
But I would like to address the members absent. I didn't think that Chris Merrill was a member of the board anymore.
You're right.
That's correct.
Yeah, and I think Dave Mursky's not, he was a member at this point too. So I think maybe he hadn't been as of September.
He's not a
Actually, these,
alternate member anymore? He never-
no, he wasn't listed. That's my point is Chris is on
I
and
see.
Dave isn't, and I'm wondering if Dave should be listed as, he was absent, but if he should be
I
listed
see
as
what you're
absent.
saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
So on September 20th, who are the alternates, or were the alternates at the time? I'm just confused as who was an alternate when.
Yeah, I don't think we remember. I don't think we have an answer to that right now, right?
don't.
We have to check.
We don't, we'll have to check.
Okay.
Yeah, my recollection is Dave.
You were.
Dave was on at that point, and Chris was off, but I couldn't swear to
I
that.
think Chris
thought Chris
ended his
resigned.
early summer, late spring,
I think that's right.
Yeah.
so.
But I think what we'll get that answer for the December meeting, and we'll vote on these minutes of the December meeting because you and I can't, because Laura wasn't there, and you and I, we can't vote with just two.
Oh, that's okay with me, but I thought Chris resigned.
He did.
Did he? Or
Yeah.
not run again?
Just have to check the date.
Yeah.
He did like late spring,
It was
early
like in the
summer.
middle of summer.
Did he resign or not
Yeah. He
resign?
resigned. Yes.
Okay, got it.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
He is definitely off. Dave is definitely on. I don't recall the timing.
And what are we doing about trying to recruit some new members?
Kevin and I are working on it, and Barb as well.
I thought that Bob Pryor had someone that was going to join. I talked to her, I met her, I know who it is.
I was going to talk with Hank. You remember Hank?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to talk with Hank. I talked to him last month, and he's like...
I saw him on a hiking trail, and I said, oh, zoning guy.
Oh, did you? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe we might have to end up calling some of our oldies back, you know.
Well, this woman, Laura, would be good. Another Laura.
Laura,
I don't remember her last name.
Yeah, and I reached out to some, I'm going to try to reach out to some
She's
folks.
very knowledgeable and articulate, and
Oh, good.
so I think she would be a good person.
Yeah.
But
All right,
The pay is very poor.
yes.
So, Martha, you should spread the word at the woods. Out where you live, you should be spreading the word that, maybe some of your people, maybe some of the people at the whole Riverwoods.
You don't want more people from the Riverwoods because you can't take the applications from the Riverwoods.
Well, yeah, but you've been on for many, many years, and you've done well. I mean, you've served us very well.
Well, thank you.
Yes, and and I think maybe some of the people at Riverwoods have been around for a long time, and they have a lot of knowledge. They could be as valuable as you are.
Well, thank you, but
Yeah. You can try. All right?
I think we should spread as far as we can
Yeah.
for requests. The more people we have in the pipe, the better.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
agree, and our pickpocket heavy board is no longer quite as heavy
Yeah.
on pickpocket.
Right.
So,
Okay, motion to adjourn.
I move that we adjourn.
so moved.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Is there any chance that we can get
Thank you for tuning in to Exeter TV. Exeter TV is the town's public and government access channels, available on Comcast channels 98 and 22. Channel 98 is your channel. If you have an idea for a program, want to host your own talk show, or submit a film, we're here to get your content on television. On Channel 22, we bring you live and replay coverage of government meetings and other town updates. A third channel, Blue Hawk Media, is operated by SAU 16 and can be found on Channel 13, with all your school sports, events, and meetings. You can watch Exeter TV online at exeternh.tv, Apple TV, and on Roku. Find us on social media for extra content. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell to get notified about live streams and new content. Tune in to our platforms every other Friday to watch the Exeter Biweekly Report, with recaps of recent events, updates from town departments, and messages from nonprofits in your area. If you head to our website, exeternh.tv, we invite you to sign up to our newsletter to receive monthly updates about new content, upcoming meetings, and more. We'd like to thank you for taking the time to watch Exeter TV and hope that you tune in to our other content as well.